What do you do when God leads you into a trial? Here's the thing. A lot of us think that a lot of our trials are from the devil because the devil wants to steal our faith, which is true. Some trials are because the devil wants to steal our joy and our faith, but a lot of trials are sent directly by God. What do you do when God leads you into a trial? That's what I'm going to talk about in today's video. This is Monday Motivation episode 8. Now, I want to share some encouraging words with you guys. A couple days ago, I heard an incredible video, an incredible testimony. Someone I actually linked up with or connected just for a few minutes with at the ARM Media Conference recently, which I shared my biggest takeaways from that last week. Go check that out. But the guy's name is Caleb Graves, and he shared an incredible story about he had a car accident. This happened back in 2011. He was actually a couple miles away from where I live, actually, because I used to live in Atlanta, but a couple miles from where I live. And it happened 2011. Basically, what happened was he was on his way back from church. Like, church had just happened, and he was on his way home. And as he was driving, he saw a stranded motorist, or two guys who were stranded because their car had run out of gas. And he heard a voice in his head because mind you, it was nighttime, and he really didn't want to get out of the car. Now, he saw them. He was just curious, but he didn't want to get out of the car, and he heard a voice, and he was like, I know that was the voice of God. He heard a voice tell him, get out of the car and go help them. So he did. He parked his car and got out of the car and went to help them. And he was helping them push. And a few minutes later, he heard a voice say, turn around. And he turned around, and all he saw was a car coming directly at him. So guys, he was hit basically by a drunk driver who was driving, I don't know how many miles per hour, but he was hit by a drunk driver and ended up being pinned between the car that he was helping to push and the car of the drunk driver that ended up smashing into him. And immediately his leg ended up being severed. Guys, I don't want to share the full story. You can go, I've linked, he has a 2-part video series on his channel. Check it out below, but I just thought it was an incredible testimony. But yeah, basically his leg came off and then a bunch of other stuff happened. Just go check out the full video if you want to hear the whole thing. But one of the things that he said in the YouTube video was he shared that, turn your adoration. I'm kind of butchering it and paraphrasing, but he talked about how turning your desperation into adoration. When you lose everything, when you feel like your life is flashing before your eyes, when your life hits rock bottom, you're desperate. And sometimes all you can do is just cry out to God in that moment. So I want to encourage you, if you're going through a trial, I've been through my fair share of trials. You know my story. My dad passed away a few years ago. It was not expected. I had some time, he got sick, but it was still a little bit unexpected. No one expects their dad to pass away when they're in high school, That was hard. And I just remember all I could do was cry out to God. I remember singing so many worship songs in my car, just praising God because he's been so good to me in my life despite the challenges. And to this day, I still question why. But guys, sometimes we don't know why. I can't tell you why you're going through what you're going through, but just know that sometimes God leads you into a trial. It's not always the devil, And what Caleb said was, God, again, as he shared in the video, he shared that he heard God say, God knew that this is going to happen. And he heard God tell him to get out of the car. And he said, he said that he wrestled with this. Why would God tell you to get out of the car? Tell you to put yourself in danger, knowing this is going to happen? Why? And that's something we'll never know until eternity. But, it's just, when you go through a desperate situation, you have to learn how to turn your desperation into adoration. Even if God leads you directly into the trial, he can still be trusted. And sometimes God will protect us, of course, but sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he leads, he's not saying God causes the trial, but he leads us into things. Jesus promised us, in this world you will have trouble. And I want to read a few scriptures for you. Let's get this. All right. Psalm 66:10 says, for you, O God, have tested us. You have tried us as silver is tried. Another scripture in Proverbs 17:3 says, the crucible's for silver, and the furnace is for gold. The Lord tests hearts. And the last one is James 1:2-4. And this one I really want you to pay attention to. He says, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. The testing of your faith produces perseverance, guys. He says, count it all joy. Now that's obviously contrary to how we think. When we're going through trials, we're not happy. I wasn't happy when my dad passed away. Like, I'm sure Caleb wasn't happy when, he was, lost his leg. Like, his leg was severed at the scene of the accident. Like, I'm sure that he wasn't happy. But he says, count it all joy. It's not saying you have to be happy necessarily because of the thing that happened to you. But you can be joyful because the testing of your faith is producing perseverance. And you don't know what that trial is doing for someone else. Someone else is watching you go through that trial. That could be blessing someone else's life and lead someone else to Christ. So guys, hopefully this video encouraged you. If this encouraged you, subscribe to my channel. Check out some of my other Motivation Monday videos. But yeah, I just want to encourage you. Keep pressing into the trial. Sometimes God leads us into a trial, but it's always for a greater purpose. So, peace.